Okay, so you're a songwriter and you've written a lot of songs. That applies to me. You send them off to all sorts of people. People listen to them, some people like them, some people say things, but at the end of the day, are you really a performer? In the same way an actor goes on a stage, a musician needs to be a performer, because music is all about live performance. I thought I'd share some of the things I've learnt over the years since 2007. My first foray into music was very difficult, because although I had some technical know-how, I didn't really know about the quality of my sound, and anyone who does English or anyone who does performing will tell you, know your audience. If you know your audience, then your craft as a musician will improve immensely. Here's a basic, really basic live setup that would work in a pub or a club. And I'm a songwriter and I've written stacks of songs. If you just pan the camera over to here, that's about 10% of what I've written. Okay, if you come back to me then. I've got filing cabinets full of material I've written, but it's going nowhere if you can't communicate that to someone else, is it? I thought long and hard about doing this series, but I thought to myself, I need to pass on some of my knowledge because I'm not getting any younger. Right, here's a basic idea and here's my basic tips. Get yourself firstly a very basic acoustic guitar. Doesn't have to be expensive. This particular model, as you can probably see, is not an expensive model. And it didn't come on with a pickup. I bought this myself, a very basic pickup, and it's passive. That means you're not going to get feedback problems from amplifiers in live setups in pubs and clubs because it doesn't have a battery in it. Okay? The controls on it, like the volume and tone, are very fiddly. Okay? So you have to usually just put them into a place where it suits your guitar, leave it. Okay? That's guitar sorted. The next thing is, all guitars when they come have a rubbish high action. All guitarists know that. I spend hours on sorting out the action. That means here at the nut level here, you can see I've even had to put a guitar string at the top there. Okay? Because I have actually used a tiny little blade, knife blade, to actually cut through here. And because I trained as a chiropodist at one time, I actually used a tiny little surgical knife blade, which I bought myself, to cut these nut things. Of course you can have that done in the shop, but be careful. That should only really be done if you're 21 and over. Okay, so I brought the action down there. I've had to remove this bridge here and bring the action down there. Okay, I've had to put Allen key, which is this is the right one here for the guitar, and tighten that. If you over tighten the Allen key, you'll break the neck on your guitar, and I've done it before on cheap guitars. Right, so this is my guitar sorted out. Now the next thing is the sound from your guitar. Now this guitar, I'm running it through a very, very basic setup here, if you want to have a look at there. And I've got but when you buy these type of pedals, you'll find that all of the settings that come from the factory are absolutely rubbish. There's no secret way of being a brilliant guitarist. I've listened and read to the magazines about guitarists. They spend years finding their sound. So I've learned from them, what you need to do is buy your guitar pedal, get the manual for your guitar pedal and read the manual. That could take weeks to learn. Okay? There's no easy solution to being a guitarist, no easy solution to being a performer or an actor, and everybody knows this is true, including the general public. Right? If you are a writer, for goodness sake, write. Don't ever stop writing just because people don't like what you do or you're not being recognised, you're not giving recognition. A lot of that, people say, is your own fault. So I'm trying to address that now. I'll use me as an example. Let's see what happens to me as I get more confident, as I try and reach out to other people, see if anyone else takes me up on my skills during this series. Right, this is my guitar pedal, and here's the sort of sound I'm looking for. Right, that's actually part of a song I wrote, which is based around a 12-bar blues lick, and the song is called Robin of Sherwood Come Home. It's Maid Marian Waits, actually, is the name of the song, and that is a basic riff in the song. I've added, using this guitar pedal, a little bit of reverb to the sound and a bit of ambience on it. So basically I've adjusted this particular setting on this pedal to suit myself. Okay, that meant I had to read the manual. If I played what I got from that pedal when I first bought it for my acoustic guitar, it would sound absolutely rubbish. Okay? The next thing is, don't ignore drums. Okay? Every guitarist needs a drummer, or you can't play solos, and everybody expects guitarists to either have another guitarist playing a solo or themselves to know a little bit about solos. So what you need to do is you need to get hold of some information about playing guitar solos. This, for instance, is a dial, and if I wanted to play, say I'm in A at the moment, I dial up A on the dial, and there's a dial at the top there as it's going along. Okay, I'll get there in the end. That's B. B flat. Here we are. Here is A. If I'm playing in key of A, that tells me from the 5th fret where the notes are for solos, from the 7th, from the 10th, from the 2nd fret, etc. Whether I'm playing in a blues scale or a major key melodic sound. These are invaluable for guitars. You need to practice your scales. So, for instance, if I'm playing in A, my song, which starts as being Maid Marian sits by a fireside table in gloom, drawing a shuttle through the water, a weaving loom. Okay, so that's a part of my song which is already on YouTube. I need to know how to play a solo on that. Now, one way of doing that, if you don't have a loop pedal, they're not always useful to play live with because you have to incorporate them into your act, is why not tape the basic rhythm to your track, which includes a drum track. Now, for the drum track on this one, I chose this very simple, robust drum machine here. When I got it second hand, the internal battery was gone. The entire back leads on it had corrosion on them. So be prepared, if you are a guitarist, to learn how to use a soldering iron. I've got one at the back up there in blue. A soldering iron for your leads. You're liable to find microphones and connections there. The soldering will be gone on them, so I've had to fix them. All the leads at the back of your equipment are likely to be heavily corroded when you buy them cheap in second hand, like I do. So be prepared to use things like WD-40 to take things apart and check corrosion on leads. Otherwise you're going to have to buy a new, which is quite expensive. Now, with the Zoom rhythm track here, it does have a sampler function, so if you press song and pattern together, I can choose a pattern, like, I quite like that. And if I press this button and that, it'll loop it. Now that's my basic rhythm for my song. If I was going to play this song live, it's called Maid Marian, wait. My vocal. All the realms will be asleep in the hollow of an oak tree, and the free kid turns his beast. Oh, Jenny, honey, bees, that's sweet. Okay, stop there. Right, so that's a basic 12-bar blues. Now, even if no one in a pub or a club had heard that song before, they recognise 12-bar blues, any other guitarist around in the village or in the town when you're playing who knows how to play guitar could join in with that song because it's 12-bar blues. Okay, and I wrote the lyrics. The song's out there. Okay, it's a basic pub song. It's even based locally on the city in which I live at the moment, which is Nottinghamshire, England. So what I'm doing is I'm running my guitar into this pedal here. It comes out through one line and straight into a basic amplifier. If you're going to play live, use a very basic, this is the one at the bottom here, use a very basic amplifier and straight in and try and keep the channels fairly clean. Again, this amplifier, when I played it, was dreadful. All of the control knobs on it needed complete cleaning, and I've just got it stabled as working now. Sometimes it's because the electronics and capacitors haven't been used, they can dry up. The vocals I've used, and this is my top tip, I've used a basic karaoke setup that runs on batteries. You can use things that run on mains. They have got a trouble with vocals. Sometimes you get very high-pitched whine, but this is a clean channel. The drum machine is running out through mono only and into the input on my karaoke. And I've also got a tape machine here. And if I rewind this, okay, I can press play and I've got the basic rhythm of my song played on it, which I can play a little lead line over if I want to. As a brief aside, if you want to learn solos and you haven't got a looping pedal, and I've only got very, very ancient things, what you can do is tape yourself playing, that's basically your guitar, with the drum machine. And I've done this for this basic track. and then try and practice various solos that might work with on yourself. I'm sure this is what bands did back in the 60s. So I've got here, rewind this song, I press play, right, and it'll start. This will be me playing the part of my track. Okay, that's a very, very basic blues solo. Now, if you're playing in a pub, I've read about bands who play live in a pub, and if you're in a very tight space, it's probably best to keep it very simple. Particularly if you are the singer, you're playing the guitar, you're laying on harmonica and the vocals, and it's just you. Then you don't want to go overboard on complications. Lead guitarists, of course they do, but that's what their job is. They're specifically like a virtuoso piano player would be on a guitar, and they're highly skilled people. So basically, unless that is your territory, you don't have to occupy that territory if you're a singer-songwriter. The more simple you keep it, the more in tune with the rhythm, even if you slow it down slightly, and you're calm and you're knowledgeable about your material, it'll come across. If you haven't got a bass player, you haven't got a drum player, you haven't got anyone else to give you an idea about solos, well, my top tip is, that's why you've got your drums. For instance, your sample here, which you press this and you get that loop, that's your rhythm, isn't it? And you can start learning, and then you've got your chords. Okay, now, anyone who's learning guitar will tell you, you always do things slowly at first. I can, using this particular machine, this rhythm track, I can increase the tempo of that to pub level or to stadium level if people want things played frenzied to fast. But start slow, and then you get ideas of what works and what doesn't work. And the more calm you are about your craft, the more people will respond to what you do. Okay, so this is my basic setup. These run on adapters. Okay, that can run on a battery. Don't think that does. That needs power, as in mains, and obviously the tape needs mains. That's running on batteries, and that's running on normal power. So even if you played live, you'd need to have someone with power. I could, at a push, do sort of marketplace things with just my harmonica and my guitar. Now, the idea of the harmonica is, and this is my top tip with harmonicas, is practice with them. I'm playing this song, it's in A, so I'm using an A harmonica. But sometimes harmonicas, you'll get a set of them cheaply, like I've got a set there, and the reason it was going cheaply is every single harmonica, apart from one, is actually out of tune, but they're in tune with themselves. So just like an old piano, if you go to a pub, you've got to tune yourself to the piano. I actually tune my guitar to those harmonicas, and then I thought to myself, is it me? Is my singing? Because I'm not the best singer in the world. And I thought, no, it isn't, it's the harmonicas. But if you tune to the harmonicas, that's fine. However, this one, I got it quite cheap in this sale, is in tune. So I'll show you, like, if I'm playing along, say, to this track here, I've got this as, I'll loop that, hang on. Okay, you get the message. Alright, I'm keeping the volume down because it's quite late. So generally I've got there, which is a 12-bar turnaround. Now hundreds of songs are 12-bar. I could just write everything as a 12-bar turnaround, as many pop groups do, and there's nothing wrong with that. However, that's not what I've done. My songs are quite complex, some using altered tunings. But I hope tonight I've given you a little taster of what it takes. For me to get this far, And what I'd recommend is, if you have a basic drum machine, you can even have one which is much rougher than that one. I've got another one over there which I bought at a car boot, and that has very, very basic rhythms. And another thing about yourself, and this is my top tip from you to you, is if you call yourself a musician, as I do, don't spend time on covers of other bands. The reason being is you need to develop your own sound. Okay, so if I've helped one person by talking about this, I'm very pleased about that. The other thing I'd like to say to you is, if you can afford better equipment, be careful about that in some ways, because if you're going to play live, other people are going to ask if they can have a go. If you haven't got roadies, you might need insurance if you're on the road. You certainly need management. Of course, I'd love to do all of those things, and I've got a stack of material. But in this series, what I'm going to do is improve my confidence. By the end of it, I should know, say, 6 to 8 of my songs off by heart, and then people can no longer say, "Oh, that Mike, he just sits in his room and writing his stuff, and he's not prepared to go out there." Because I'll prove that I am, but I also prove that I know my stuff, and I'll also prove that I know how to present my material. Thank you. I hope you've enjoyed the first lesson in School of Rock with Mike.